in IT.
Test, test.
I'm going to let Lynn handle all the Zoom stuff unless something happens. Is that okay? Okay. I would like to call the August 2nd, 2021 regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us in person this evening and those who are viewing remotely from home. The board held an executive session prior to this meeting regarding personnel. Board members with an agenda before you, are there any changes? No? Okay. Moving on. Then Mr. Johnson's going to share some housekeeping items with the audience.
Thank you. That'll help. Thank you, Amy. For the audience this evening, 30 minutes will be provided at the beginning of the meeting for public comment for those who have signed up on Google Form. If additional time is necessary, or for those who did not sign up, the board may consider reopening public comment after board business is completed or during next meeting. Each individual will be limited to comments of 2 minutes as time permits for items related to board business that are not on the action items portion of the agenda. For action items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item as required by school code. This approach also allows for comments to be informed by the presentation and board's discussion of the respective item. During the meeting, the IT help desk is available if those viewing remotely encounter technical difficulties. You may email IT support at scasd.org or call 814-231-7743.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'd like to now call on the board secretary for a roll call of board members.
Dr. Bader,
Here.
Ms. Bedell,
Here.
Ms. Brandt,
Here.
Mr. Fazard,
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Here.
Mr. Leos,
Here.
Ms. Sidney.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll now go over to Mr. Johnson for the superintendent's report.
Okay, before I give you an update on the health and safety plan, I would like to recognize 4 students who will be presented with their Eagle Scout Award during court honor ceremonies in July and August. Start with Davis Ian Rao from Troop 380, and from Troop 31, John Bronstead and Peter Relkin and Eric Witt. The board in the district would like to congratulate these gentlemen for this outstanding achievement. Congratulations. As a follow-up to the July 19th board meeting, we would like to remind the community that our current summer health and safety plan will remain in place until August 16th. At that time, we will transition into our recently approved 2021-22 health and safety plan. Although the memo is attached to this agenda, I would like to read the highlights for the audience benefit. The health and safety plan was developed as a layered prevention plan to provide multiple safety measures as well as the flexibility to respond to changing conditions. In light of the fluidity of the COVID-19 pandemic, we will continue to meet with our health and safety team and closely monitor the situation. As we discuss possible next steps, we will also take into account the July 27th and update guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention regarding masking at different levels of community transmission. The updated CDC guidance recommends that all individuals, regardless of their vaccination status, wear masks indoors if the level rises to substantial or high. This is one factor among many that we will consider in making any changes to the plan. As a reminder, the board authorized the district administration in consultation with the health and safety team to revise protocols accordingly. This could result in more or less restrictive mitigation protocols at any time. As always, any changes or updates to the health and safety plan will be communicated to the board and then to our families. To help with community understanding, we have developed a health and safety plan and a back-to-school Q&A. We plan to keep this document updated with specific information and answers to questions from our community. Thanks.
Great. Thanks very much, CJ. Board members, do you have any communications to share at this time? Okay, Laurel?
Just a question, where is that Q&A located, or has it been put up yet?
Jean will.
It's going to be on the COVID website that we have arranged, and I believe we sent it out to families already.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, on the COVID widget, subsection of our website.
Yeah, that I think you can get to from the front page.
Yep.
Correct.
Or whatever the term is. Thanks.
Great. Good point. Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. David or Lori, do you have any legislative updates for the board? Okay. Lori?
Hold on. Just a couple things we have our LAC meeting this week, but at the federal level, keeping an eye on the infrastructure bill. Currently, there's $5 billion for zero and low emission school buses in the bill, as well as $65 billion for broadband internet services. So, and there are other elements in there that we'll be keeping our eye on. And then just to make note that Education Secretary Miguel Cardona released a statement supporting the CDC's guidance that that everyone, regardless of their vaccination status, wear a mask indoors in K through 12 schools. He noted that the best place for schools to be is in schools, and that we need to do all we can to keep schools open so that that can happen. Also noting that because of what we all went through last year, because of all we learned, we know how to do this, and he referenced masking, air filtration, and ventilation among the other efforts that school districts like ours made. So that was his July 27th statement. That's all I have.
Okay. Thanks, Lori. So at this time, we have a Council of Governments update. Gretchen, do you have anything to share?
Yes, just one quick item I wanted to share. I think a lot of SCASD families will be interested in this. So save the date for Trick or Treat this year is October 31st, and the rain date is November 1st.
Very important news. Okay. Thanks very much. So at this time, we have time for public comment. We will go in the order of those individuals who signed up via the Google form. As Mr. Johnson indicated earlier, each individual will be limited to comments of 2 minutes as time permits for items related to board business that are not on the action item portion of the agenda. For action items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item as required by school code. If additional time is necessary, or for those who did not sign up, the board may consider reopening public comment after board business is completed. And if we don't have enough people signed up to fill the initial 30 minutes, I think that's what we've talked about before, we certainly can allow those who have attended in person to fill in after that. So the board secretary is going to help us with the Google form information.
All right, the first individual is Corrine Calixte from State College, joining remotely.
Not
No?
here.
Okay. Ashik Idrizi from Center Lane. Yes.
Okay. So if you could just introduce yourself and where you live in the district, and then you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And if you're remote, be sure to unmute yourself first. Thanks. Hello?
Hey. Hello, this
Yes.
is Ashika Desi. Yeah, this is the first meeting I've attended, so you can shut me down if this is not on topic. But I guess in reviewing the health and safety plan, I guess I was just curious, what kinds of metrics or data points are going to be used to determine when changes need to be made to that plan? Like specifically, like there's no remote learning option mentioned in that plan. So Like what kinds of things will trigger a remote learning option, if any? That's all I had.
Okay. Generally, there are going to be a variety of things covered, and we can potentially have someone return your question with some additional answers. But the safety team generally covers lots of different factors about community transmission, the hospital status, and a variety of other factors of what's happening in our schools. Okay.
All right, next is Carrie Weissman from College Township. You indicated in person, and it's related to an action item. Is Carrie here? No? Okay. Next is Ari Giros from Boalsburg. Okay.
So, Ari, yeah, come on up to the podium right over there in the microphone, and you can introduce yourself and where you reside in the district and make your comments.
Okay. Hey, this is Ari residing in Boalsburg. I'm a super senior at State College High School this year. Graduated in 2022. I am a special education student in Miss Nana Bach's room. I want to thank the whole school district for helping in this COVID-19 pandemic. I have a few concerns about this health and safety plan. The CDC updated to keep this last week on the 27th of July that universally everyone, including fully vaccinated and unvaccinated, should be wearing their masks indoors. I have a personal involvement with this issue because I possess a poor immune system, including upper respiratory infections. Could we change the decision making masks optional to everyone wearing their masks and face shields indoors and outdoors? And this is all I have.
Thanks, Ari.
Next, we have Michael Accardo from Bristol Avenue, remotely. No? Tammy Nowacki from College Township. Yes.
Okay. If you just want to introduce yourself and where you reside in the district, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Tammy Nowacki, College Township. Last year was a hard year for all, but remote learning surpassed my expectations and my children excelled. Their teachers did a fabulous job, and I know it was not easy. Allowing my children as close to normal in education while ensuring their safety was the greatest gift. They were challenged, inspired, and felt a part of the classroom. Their needs were met. This was new territory, and like all new ideas, a work in progress. In order to succeed, communication and feedback are critical. Virtual Academy families were surveyed, yet remote families were not and should have been. 85% of those who chose online until vaccinated chose remote, and only 15% VA. The survey closed before the Delta variant became widespread in our country and before some had changed their minds from in-person to wanting remote. Remote is the only academic option where students are live taught by SCSI teachers and aligns directly with the curriculum at school. We have faith in our teachers and their ability to make a seamless transition when it is safer to do so. I am pleased to hear that specials will now be live taught by SCSI teachers for VA. I wish we had another opportunity for a survey with remote as an option. Again, these students will go back to school. You should want them to have the best transition possible. Remote would have done that. Teachers should have been surveyed to see if they wanted to teach remote. It would have been a great position for a teacher who has medical needs or any other needs. Some teachers have really excelled at teaching this way. Many families work and don't have the time to assist their teachers to assist their children with VA. The lack of peer interaction can be devastating. The online option is what families can do when they have lost trust in their community. No matter how much we admire and respect our teachers, our children aren't guaranteed safety at school. We have to rely on our community to be forthcoming about testing and sharing positive results, which we all know is an undercount. We know there will be those who will get sick and show no signs of illness. We have no guarantees our community is taking necessary precautions. Even those who are fully vaccinated can still get it and spread it. We are suddenly worried about costs, but not concerned when it comes to pricing new playgrounds that already need maintenance. Quality education that supports the needs of all of our students and families should be our primary concern. If those needs are not met, we will be faced with families that will look elsewhere, taking dollars away from our district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Selena Ortiz from State College joining remotely. Yes.
Okay, Ms. Ortiz, if you just want to introduce yourself and where you reside in the district, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Selena Ortiz, and I reside in Ferguson Township. I wanted to approach the board this evening to discuss and to actually second everything that Tammy had mentioned in regard to the remote learning students. Our children who are attending, who cannot attend in person, we did not select for them to participate in Virtual Academy because we're interested in them learning independently and asynchronously from their peers. Many of us have children who physically cannot participate in person because of their at-risk conditions for severe COVID-19 infections. I also agree with Tammy in regard to the wonderful job that the remote teachers did last year, and the transition back into in-person classes would only be made easier if there was indeed a remote option, something that we were not given this last survey that went around. We understand that the numbers, we don't have a breakdown of the percent in regard to grades as to who wanted to continue to have a remote option. That was not made available to us. We have not had any interaction really in regard to what Virtual Academy learning is about and what it entails. And we still have several questions still on our minds in regards to what connections will Virtual Academy students have to their home school, participation in Pride Days, access to library services. And for those of us who work full-time, like our sons, both my husband and I work full-time, we're at our wits' end and we cannot put him in person. And so we are concerned about his transition back into in-person classes once he is vaccinated. And we'd like some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. I do think one of our previous memos had some breakdown of those things, but I'd ask you to also reach out to your school building principal who can hopefully connect you with somebody who can provide some more specific answers to your questions. Thank you for your comments.
Next is Cindy Zinn from State College joining remotely. No? Okay. Helena N. from Patton Township? No? Gary Adler from State College.
Okay, Mr. Adler, if you want to introduce yourself and where you reside in the district, and then you'll have 2 minutes for your comment. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself too, please.
No.
Mr. Adler? Okay.
Next is Jennifer.
Oh. Go ahead, we hear you now.
Can you hear me? Thank you, I appreciate that. I first wanted to point
We can no longer hear you, Mr. Adler. I'm not sure if you were trying to reduce the echo that we were hearing, but we can't hear you at this moment. You want to try again one more time? Okay, I think we'll move down the list, Mr. Adler, and we'll check back in with you before we wrap up, okay? Just to make sure if you're having technical issues.
Next on the list is Jennifer Moani from Ferguson Township.
Okay? Okay. If you'd like to state your name and where you reside in the district, and you'll have 2 minutes for your comments.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Moani. I live in Ferguson Township. I'm going to refer to the health and safety plan. I'm here to continue to support masks optional, one rule for all as you continue to refine this plan. The current plan continues to be discriminatory and to violate the Nuremberg Human Rights Code. Just because you are able to implement the policy does not mean it's right, or does it mean it can't be changed, as you have stated. Pharma's agenda has no place within policy at the school. Policy based on participation in an experimental vaccination trial is wrong. It's important to note that there are a growing number of COVID-19 cases within vaccinated individuals. The vaccine is simply not working to prevent these infections like everyone had hoped. Dare I say that every single one of us knows a fully vaccinated individual who later tested positive for COVID. It's true, I do. What it comes down to now is you have to have a treatment plan in case of illness, whether you're vaccinated or not, before it's too late. I would like to encourage everyone to go to COVID-19criticalcare.com and look at their eye mask protocol. It's based on pharmaceuticals like ivermectin and other over-the-counter supplements. These protocols have been used around the world and locally. I've seen these treatment protocols work for COVID-19. This is information everybody needs. Why? Because even the vaccines are not preventing these strains and are getting sick now. And no one needs to die when there are treatments available. It's COVID-19criticalcare.com. This is information that everybody needs to live their lives again. My position is masks optional. To resume normal school activities with masks optional. Wear if you choose to or not. Pharma does not belong here with your hands in their pockets as you make rules for our students. COVID vaccine status should have no place in the implementation of rules. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Patty Higgins from Ferguson Township. Remote? No.
Okay.
Okay, we can go back to Gary Adler.
Okay, Mr. Adler, we're going to try you one more time if you're still listening and you wanted to make a public comment. Please, if you can, raise your hand and unmute yourself, and we'll have you set up. Not there? Okay. If you're having technical difficulties, do feel free to email us at allboard@scasd.org, okay? And we'll try to answer your question or listen to your comment. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else additionally in person attending who wanted to make a public comment on something on the agenda, not an action item? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to routine approvals. Can I have a motion to approve the routine approval listing as presented?
So moved.
Leah, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or concerns about the items on the routine approvals? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment on routine approvals? Also none, then we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Yes. Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Okay.
So that has passed. We'll move on to individual action items. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 student requests to attend Central Pennsylvania Institute of Technology as shown in attachment 6A?
So moved.
Leah, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussions on this item? No, none from board members. Is there any public comment on this particular item? No. All right, then we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Yes. Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Okay, that motion is passed. Next up is, may I have a motion to approve purchase of student assisted devices with Dick's Home Care as seen in attachment 6B?
Brandt, so moved.
Leah, second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Ms. Sidney?
Just a brief comment, thank you, because I'm often someone who's asking, was this a bid item? What were the bid results? That's all in this memo, and I really appreciate it.
Great, okay, thanks. Anyone else? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, then we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Yes. Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Okay. Next up is agenda item 6C, and a motion to approve an agreement with Drexel University nursing student interns, as shown in attachment 6C.
Brandt, so moved.
Bedell, second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion for this item? Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that item is passed. Up next, agenda item 6D is a motion to approve the installation of South Track donor recognition signage, as shown in attachment 6D.
So moved. Bedell.
Leah, second.
All right, that's been Moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion from board members? Okay, Ms. Zidney?
Two, one is, and I'm sorry if it was somewhere and I just didn't see it, where in the area will this be placed? And also, do we yet know what the recognition levels or anything like that for people who will be engraved on here
Okay.
are? As in, we have some things coming up for a specific thing.
Sure. I know this
don't
was
if
covered
will
at
also be on here. Or?
at some previous facilities. Mr. Brown's at the table to answer the question.
Sure. So the location of this is essentially when you walk up into the track facility, it'll be off to the left area before you get to the bleachers. It's just up inside there. The first two plaques that would be placed on this will be one for the recently installed, recently being a little bit loosely, the scoreboard, which has been used for 2 seasons ago when we had to have football up at the South Track. That's one of the first two. The second will be a plaque to acknowledge the concession and restroom facility that was built several years ago in honor of a local citizen. Right now we're looking at for that facility we'd be looking at more than approximately a $20,000 gift or more for including on the plaque. But that's not been completely identified yet. And if there's any specific needs that come up, there may be something that we may make a recommendation to formalize that a little bit more in the near future.
I cannot remember. I'm sorry. I thought I remember that we had authorized something actually on the school board, or did we not?
The scoreboard is not in a location where many people would be able to
Okay, so even if we did,
acknowledge it. So that's why we wanted to build this monument inside the facility so that so no matter where the items are, this is a unique facility in that case. So that's why we wanted to build them a monument so that the plaques could be located there in one central location.
Yeah. Even if, most people don't walk up to a scoreboard, just see the little plaque on it. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions from board members? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Zidney?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
That item is passed. Oh, wait, but the hand raised in public comment, was that on the action item?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, so my apologies. I was just notified that we had a hand raised for public comment, and it's unclear whether that was an attempt for public comment on this particular action item or from previous. So,
I think it's been up for a while.
okay.
Yeah.
So as awkward as this is, I'm going to go ahead and allow to see if this individual is still available and wanted to make public comment. She just put her hand down. Okay, so hopefully it was a technical glitch. Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. All right, so we'll move on to agenda item 6E, which is a motion to approve change orders to the bus garage paving project. This is shown in attachment 6E.
Brandt, so moved.
I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, and a second. Are there any questions or discussion on this item from board members? Okay, I see none. Any public comment? All right, then we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Zidney?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Next up is agenda item 6F is a motion to approve 2021-2022 Central Intermediate Unit Number 10 Special Education Services Contract. This is shown in attachment 6F.
Bedell, so moved.
Leah, second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion from board members? Okay. Any public comment on this item? Ari, if you'd like to make a comment, come on up to the microphone so we can hear you. If you can just say your name again for the record, Ari.
It's fine. This is Ari again, and I think we should vote no for masks should not be optional. But special education, I'm really glad that we're making everyone involved, including the special ed people like myself. Thank you.
Thanks, Ari. So this is about special ed services. Okay, so any other public comment items on this item?
Amy, could I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
Ari, I just want to thank you so much for being so present at our meetings all the time. I really appreciate that you pay attention and that you advocate for special education in our district. I really appreciate you. Yeah. That's a separate issue, but I just wanted you to know that we absolutely hear what you're saying. So thank you.
All right. I think that closes public comment. We'll have a roll call vote on this item.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazzard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney?
Yes.
That item is passed. Next up is agenda item 6G, a motion to approve an MOU with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. This is shown in attachment 6G.
Leah, so moved.
Brandt, second.
That's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion from board members?
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Leos?
Just to thank them for hanging with us over a very difficult year. We very much appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We've been very fortunate to work with this group. Any public comment on this item? All right, then we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazzard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes. That item is passed then. Next is agenda item 6H, is a motion to approve an MOU with the State College Educational Support Personnel Association. This is shown in attachment 6H.
Brandt, so moved.
So that's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion for this item? Mr. Leos?
Yeah, well, again, thank you again to our support specialists and our paraprofessionals for hanging with us this year. It's been a very difficult year, and they were a key part of it.
Absolutely. And I will again concur. Yep. Any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazzard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Agenda item 6.1 is a motion to approve the appointment and contract for Danielle Yoder as Acting Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education for a one-year term beginning August 3rd, 2021 through August 2nd, 2022, and this is shown in attachment 6.1.
Leah, so moved.
Bedell, second.
That's been moved and seconded.
Brandt, third, but I just have to say that I'm glad I didn't have to second it, because I know that Easterly Parkway is going to be very, very sad to lose Danielle Yoder, but the whole district and the whole community will benefit. So I'm glad I didn't have to actually second it. Too sad for me.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to do that in this role tonight. So I concur with Ms. Brandt. I know we're very fortunate to have Ms. Yoder step into this role, but the families at Easterly Parkway will indeed miss her. Is there anyone else who wants to have a question or discussion on this item? Okay. Anyone for public comment? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Fazzard?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Bedell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Even though
So-
we've been already singing her praises, but Mr. Johnson had a
Yeah.
few remarks.
So I would also like to congratulate both Ms. Danielle Yoder as the new acting superintendent, assistant superintendent of elementary education, and Ms. Laura Tobias as the new high school principal. Ms. Yoder has led Easterly Parkway for 3 years, while Ms. Tobias has served as an assistant high school principal since 2016. During their time with the district, both have demonstrated outstanding leadership while overseeing their schools and helping to create best possible learning and working environments. Having worked closely with both Danielle and Laura, Dr. O'Donnell and myself would like to say confidently that they will continue the district's mission of preparing students for lifelong success. So I would like to congratulate both of them.
Hear, hear. Okay, so moving on, our last action item is 6J, a motion to approve new resources for middle level intervention. This is shown in attachment 6J.
Badell, so moved.
Leah, second.
That's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion from board members? This was an item that was presented as an info discussion at our prior board meeting. Included some resources for both math and ELA interventions. Any questions or concerns? Okay. I think we had a pretty rich discussion about it at the last meeting. Is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Leos?
Yes.
Ms. Sidney? Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Ms. Badell?
Yes.
Ms. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Fazzard?
Yes.
All right, that item is passed. And then we'll move on to information discussion. First up, we have policy 707 about facility use. I think we'll have Ms. Pierce at the table and perhaps Mr. Brown. And so this is our second read of this policy, is that correct?
I believe it's the
I-
first read.
This is the first, okay.
This is the first at the board.
The
At the full board
Policy
table.
Development Committee reviewed it.
My apologies, I just wanted to clarify for the group. Yeah, so this is our first reading of this policy that's coming out of policy committee. I'm on that committee too, so I apologize, I had them mixed up. Go ahead.
So it's basically,
Linda, is your
Some-
mic on?
yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry,
I
it's hard to hear
just
you.
apparently wasn't close enough. Go ahead, Randy.
That's better, thanks.
So we just wanted to do a little bit of restructuring of this policy because we felt that, especially I think after committee review, they concurred that much of this policy belonged in a guideline. And so we've just restructured, including in the policy, the different classes, organizations that would use our policy, use our facilities. And the fact that the district has the ability, the board has the ability to charge a fee for facility use. And we have in the guidelines then will be the majority of the rest of the information. We have an online system that we use for facility use, but obviously people can contact the facility department as well if they have a difficulty with doing such. We follow this policy. It sometimes can be difficult for outside groups to use our facility because we have a very, very active school district. And so there is sometimes a bumping situation that can occur, and we are trying to limit that, and especially with the use of our online system, allow external users to see through that system what facilities are available throughout the district instead of having to call up an individual department.
Okay. Any board member questions or discussion on this information item? Okay, one sec, let me just see you. Okay, so let's go around the table. Gretchen, you want to start on this side?
Yeah, and I've been in these discussions, but if you could just remind me. So if a group if a group has reserved a facility in the district, what's the length of time in terms of notification that they would have before they know that they can no longer, that they've been bumped?
I mean, quite honestly, it could be the next day. It just depends on the type of event, the type of facility, and the situation that could occur.
So there is no specific time
No.
mentioned in the policy or a
No,
guideline or
there's
anything?
not. I can give you an example.
So case-by-case basis?
It's a case-by-case basis, yes. There's no limit and there's no minimum required.
Okay, yeah, I just think that, and the reason I asked is so we could say it once again out loud, that way all the groups who run facilities know this ahead of time, that this could happen. And so it's going to be up to them, knowing that ahead of time,
Right.
whether they feel like it's a good contract to enter into.
Correct.
For a particular event. Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Sure.
Laurel?
A couple of things. Can you go ahead and you mentioned an example?
Sure. So let's say that there is a playoff game scheduled at Memorial Field. And because of a weather delay, because of COVID, because of whatever reason, that event needs to be canceled and rescheduled for the next day. An external group, Class D or even Class C group, could be notified that their event for the next day has been canceled because we need to make an opportunity for our PIAA students to participate in their activity because of a cancellation.
Oh, great. That's helpful. And then my comment was only when this comes back to the board. Usually we have been attaching the regulations, and I don't know whether what's here and crossed out is going verbatim into the regulations. I assume the part that says at the bottom, look into what's up with bumping, is sort of what we were just addressing. But I did want to request that the regulations come with, even though we only approve the policy, that those come with it so we can see them.
Sure.
When they, and I assume the red are things that are the items that are in red are going to be included.
They're new to the policy. They were
Right.
in the regulation
Because
or
they're-
guideline before.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
We
Thank you.
can definitely accommodate that. I will share, because it's timely, because of COVID situation and the pandemic, we had closed our facilities. Last spring, our external facilities or outdoor facilities have been reopened. The board gave the administration the ability to reopen indoor facilities as we felt that we could safely manage those with handling our students, which I realize that it's summer, so students aren't here in mass numbers, although I've been in several buildings and there are students in buildings even over the summer, as well as getting ready back for the school year and managing our staff and everything. So far, we have not taken any reservations for internal facility use yet. We are getting many, many inquiries about when that's going to happen. Unfortunately, we just do not feel comfortable making any of those reservations just yet because of the various uncertainties that we are still working under. So again, to say publicly that if anyone feels disenfranchised, especially some of our folks that have used our facilities many, many times over the years, we are treating everyone the same, and we're just not taking any reservations at this time because of that. We do hope to open up facilities in the very near future in that scheduling, but we just haven't felt that we've been prepared to handle that.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Brandt?
Sorry, I know I said I had one question. Actually, I have two. So my second question is, I have been contacted by groups before who had a reservation at a facility other than Memorial Field and then got bumped and then went to Memorial Field so that they could hold their event. Apparently, and this is something I guess that we might want to look into, or if we want to have this in the guidelines, I'm not sure, but this has come up, that Memorial Field costs more to rent because of the lighting situation there, and there has to be people there to operate the lights. It can't just happen from a cell phone like some of the other outdoor facilities. So what the request is could groups in that circumstance pay the same rate that they would have otherwise, because it's not their fault that they're at that field that costs more instead of the field that they initially had reserved. So I know that I don't know if this is the time for this conversation or if it's back in policy, but I just thought I'd bring that up because I've had a lot of groups ask me to bring it up. So That's it.
So I would assume that I would need board direction to waive that fee, because your policy says that any costs for the different classes are to be assessed. And so I understand that there would be some disappointment or consternation about that situation, but if we did not charge them, a user, for the cost at Memorial Field, then that would have to be eaten by the school district. And so that's, I don't believe that, as my read of the policy, that's something that the administration can do without direction.
Yeah, I would guess that because, I mean, our fee structure is based, that this is not a profit-making enterprise for the district. It's essentially to cover our costs for cleaning and staff and other things that are necessary when we rent out our facilities.
Correct.
So there's no slush or, to take up that loss.
Amy?
I can understand that. Yes.
I'm assuming that, I mean, I think it's a great question. I'm assuming in that instance, they would have the ability to decline the use of Memorial, so they wouldn't be required to use it. Not that that makes it easier for them to, to hold their event, but at least they're making the conscious decision, relative to that. And it's a great point, Amy, that this is not profit making. This is purely to cover the costs that are required for that venue.
Correct.
Great. Okay. Good question.
No, I appreciate that it was discussed aloud at the board table.
Yep.
So thanks everybody who contributed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's helpful for the community to understand. Yeah. Anyone else have questions or on this info? Yes, Laura?
First, I do think that might be worth policy committee discussing that and whether we wanted it to request that it either be in the regulations or something in the policy about it, because we don't assess the fee every single time exactly tied into the cost. I don't have any idea the cost differential between one facility and another, but it might be worth our discussing because I can see the challenges in that, and I agree that we have to give our district use priority.
I'm not understanding what you're asking to put in the regulations.
I guess I was saying that I think it might be worth the policy committee discussing that instance, since I heard Mr. Brown say that he would need guidance from the board. I'm sure he doesn't mean every single time necessarily, or maybe he does, but it might be helpful if there were guidance.
Oh, you mean like if they have to have an upgrade and whether we would waive that?
Right, that
Okay.
might be something that we discuss as a board, starting with the policy committee, and then put into our regulations whatever our.
Okay, well, why don't we
That should
just, why don't we have board members weigh in? Is that something that you feel you need to discuss, send back to policy committee to have a more robust discussion about, or would you rather leave things as status quo?
Just want to go around?
Yeah, let's just go around, Mr. Fazar.
I think I would probably leave it at status quo
Okay.
at this point, based on the nature.
Sure. Lori?
Sorry. Yes, I think I'd like to leave it as well. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Leos?
Yeah, we could discuss it,
Okay.
the committee.
Sorry, I thought you were going to chime in, Amy.
No. Oh, well, I'll wait till then. Go ahead.
And I would support discussing it in the committee, not necessarily as a bifurcated decision of, yes, we'll waive the fees, no, we won't, but just to have a conversation to see if maybe there's something we could think outside the box to come up with some new idea, but I think it's at least worth a conversation.
Okay. David?
I'd be inclined to stay with the status quo. I'm not sure that there's a reasonable solution out there to find.
Okay. I mostly went around the table not to be nitty gritty, but only because Mr. Brown shared that there was some expediency in terms of moving this forward. And if we turf it back to policy committee, that's going to slow the process, correct?
It absolutely is, but whatever the board wants to do.
Right. That's why I wanted to be specific about where people stood so that I wouldn't always do that. Yes, Ms. Sidney.
Well, and also because it's a regulation, that could be added, even if we pass the policy.
Sure.
It could be added later, so I wasn't suggesting holding up the policy.
Okay.
Vote on that, but I did have an actual policy question as well.
Okay.
About the policy, and that is, I'm trying to read through here, and I'm wondering if anything in here is interpreted to mean, or if we might want to add something that says a group using the facility would be required to, for instance, adhere to our health and safety policy that was in place at the time that they would use the facility.
I haven't combed through the details, but I think most of our policies say that they need to adhere to most district policies. Does that?
Yeah, I would.
I don't know if. Yeah.
I think that goes without saying.
Yeah,
however,
that language is in many.
I think it goes without saying, but I didn't see it specifically. It says conform to established regulations, doesn't interfere.
We do say it in the health and safety plan, though, too, that,
that every-
people, yeah, it's in the summer health and safety plan that anybody using our facilities would have to adhere to that plan. I remember that
memory.
language.
Okay, thank
We
you.
can also add it, Mrs. Pierce reminded me, we can also add it to our reservation system.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask as well,
Great.
just so that's up front. Yeah.
Better solution,
It
thank you.
seems common sense, but making sure we have all the
So,
I's and T's dotted.
I'm going to just differ with something you just said, Ms. Isney. I would disagree that it could be in the regulation, because I think that if the policy says this is what the fees are going to be based upon, meaning covering our costs, and the use of Memorial Field is higher because we must have a person at the facility to turn on the lights and to monitor the facility, then I don't think that the regulation could say that the administration has the ability to waive that fee without board direction. So
Right, that was.
I think that's a policy issue, not a
Regulation.
regulation issue. So if there's board support for it to go back to policy, I'm fine with that. It is what it is, but I don't think that that's a regulation. I think that's a policy.
Sorry. Do I understand correctly from what you said earlier, as well as my reading through, that most of this is a structural change, moving things into regulation, as opposed to very substantive changes in expectations or something?
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. But one of the last sections in the policy says personnel fee, and it talks about a fee charged to building users. And
Yeah.
that's the part that would be the fee waiver. And again, I also believe that if you're going to tell administration or authorize administration to assess a fee, that you should tell administration or authorize administration when to waive that fee.
Correct.
As well.
Yeah, that, leaving
I
it
think
to,
that makes
leaving it
sound
to
policy.
discretion could open yourself up to a judgment
Right.
and other problems.
And that's in the policy we currently have. That's not an addition. That is status quo now.
Correct.
There's
And
no
that would stay
ability,
in the
there's no
policy.
discretion for them to waive any kind of fees
Exactly.
currently.
I guess, without spending much more time on it, my point was, I understand the expediency, but the expediency is more we're trying to get through policy revisions and get it done, as opposed to we have a change that we want to implement right away, and therefore we need to, or that it's a brand-new policy that you feel you need in place. And so delaying it a little longer to go back, I'm trying to answer your question around
Sure.
the table of, do we think it's worth discussion? I think it's worth discussion, because I don't think holding up the policy to have that discussion makes a material difference.
Then
from
we're
what
going to
we have now.
revise the policy shortly after you approve it, is basically what I'm trying to suggest.
Okay.
So
That-
if
that-
you're going to discuss it, it's part of the policy. Let's just wait and do it at policy again and bring it back for a new reading.
Lynn, do you know when we next have a policy meeting in front of you by chance? Okay. Okay, well, is everybody comfortable if board leadership confers with Dr. O'Donnell and Mr. Brown, and perhaps we'll, because we have to wait a number of weeks before a second reading on this anyway, so it could be that it can be resolved at policy committee, and we can bring forth, if there is a change, we can bring it forth at the next reading. Yeah.
I guess just a point of reference that, and I'm not sure whether this came out or not, but we have a policy.
Correct.
So it's not like there is guidance right now based
Yeah.
on the existing policy, and the existing policy is exactly what this is saying. So while I'm not advocating for waiving this,
sure,
the delay doesn't delay things moving forward. It just delays the bifurcation of this specific policy. So
Correct, and I'm just observing that fortunately we have a meeting coming up, and being this is a short issue, we can hopefully resolve it and maybe not get off track, since policy sometimes is every other month, so I wasn't sure how
Yeah.
much.
It's August 17th.
Yeah.
Did
So-
that get said?
Yeah, okay, so it's pretty soon. So while it's fresh in our minds, hopefully we can resolve it. Okay, I think we're done discussing this one. Okay, let's move on to item B, which is policy 815.2, IT data backup and retention.
This is another in the series of policies we've been bringing to you. This one, as the title suggests, is about backup and retention. So what we need are clear written delineation of what our practices will be to back up our data, to how do we, what is our retention for the data, and how do we recover the data? There certainly are protocols that are all throughout the industry. You see some language in here. I did not write it. I'm not going to pretend I know what recovery point objective is. But as with the other policies, we do have the policy itself that says this is what we as a district will do, and then we will be writing, our IT folks will be writing the regulations that promulgate what we need to do for data backup and retention.
Okay, great.
All questions can be directed to Mr. Leos.
Yeah, and I think, Justin.
Actually, we did review this at the CAC for Technology
Great.
at our last meeting. So.
Good. Any other questions or comments about this one?
Just, I can
Go ahead if
make
you
a
have something
comment.
else to
I mean, one of the key bits is the final paragraph before the definitions about the application owners to help decide it. Okay. And then one question that came up that maybe Dr. Etter could help with, are there must be some state regulations in terms of retention of certain school records, right, in the school code?
Can you do your mic for us? Thanks, Scott.
I'm not certain that it's in the school code. It's one of those things that I look at about every 10 years, so I don't remember it off the top of my head, but there certainly are issues with regard to student records that we have to maintain more or less into perpetuity.
Right.
Yeah, because we had that one come forward in the last year. Miss Bailey came.
We do have a record retention policy, yes.
Right.
Yep. So it should be covered there. Great. Anything else on this particular policy? So this will come back in several weeks for a second read. Okay. If something comes up, you can email Lori or I with the policy committee.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Linda. So let's see. Next on the agenda, we have committee meeting reports. Policy Development Committee, Lori, I would imagine we've covered a bit of that.
Yes, we did. So we talked about what we just talked about here today, and we also talked about our gender expansive policy, which will be coming back to the board for info discussion on the 16th.
Thanks.
As far as I know, unless something changes.
Great. Additional upcoming board committee meetings. On the 11th of August, we have Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee at 10 a.m. That's a remote meeting. And also on the 11th, Finance and Audit Committee meeting at 11:45, also remote.
Yeah. Amy, I will be absent for the finance meeting on the 11th.
Right, because that's when we're done board business. Yeah. I'm sorry, you will not be able to attend the finance
Correct.
committee?
So,
Okay.
yeah, the finance, so I'll just need somebody else to chair that.
Okay. I think Amber will still potentially be away at that meeting. Okay, I will check in with Lynn and see if I can attend and what we may need to do for that. Because that would be
Randy,
chunk
is
of the
that
committee.
Randy, is that finance committee meeting? What's on the agenda for that?
Okay. Well, I can, yeah, I think it'll be fine.
That actually might not be bad.
That would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I apologize. So we'll have to be canceling that meeting. I think we're short of a quorum and we don't have a urgency. Okay, that sounds good. So future agenda planning, August 6th.
Amy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do we set the date for the communication committee? Was that the 19th?
Yes, August 19th.
Okay.
August 19th. So that was postponed from the July meeting, which fell during the administrative retreat.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
of that because I'm not on that committee and I didn't know. So Additionally, upcoming board meetings include August 19th, Communications Committee meeting. And what time is that, Lynn?
12:30.
12:30,
That's
I'm
what I
hearing.
thought I had,
And I
too.
think committee meetings we're still doing remote until we start back in school. So I anticipate
Correct.
that's a remote meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Our next regular board meeting will be August 16th, and action items will probably include South Track landscaping and info discussion on a new proposed policy 011, principles for governance and leadership. We had some technical difficulties with a couple public comment individuals, so if the board doesn't have any additional items, I'm going to reopen for public comment to try and allow those people to have a chance to share their comments. So I think we have one or two people remotely, and then we can double check whether there's someone here in person.
All right, Gary Adler.
So Mr. Adler, if you can unmute yourself.
Yep. Can you hear me this time?
Yes, excellent. So just tell us where you reside in the district, please, and then you may share your comments.
Sure. In State College, I have a student at Radio Park. Thanks for y'all's patience. I know it's the end of a long day and a late night. I just wanted to mention two things. My son is not able, for medical reasons, to attend in person. We did remote last year. It went quite well, all things considered, and I looked forward to that for this year. I would just like two bits of information. First off, it would be helpful if the administration could be a little bit more transparent on the survey results for why no remote classes are being offered. We were in a class that was supposed to be offered and that was removed. So we'd just like some transparency on that. Secondly, it would be very helpful to know more about what the district is doing for this most vulnerable group of kids. So these are the kids who haven't been in person for over a year and still can't be in person for medical reasons. They're going to virtual academy like our son, not out of a choice for educational freedom, but out of a choice for medical responsibility. And to date, we have received nothing that connects my son's homeschool to the virtual academy. The virtual academy materials seem very oriented towards a different type of student than I think a lot of these medical necessity students are. So I would just encourage the board to ask the administration to be clear and transparent about how they're keeping an eye on students like my son, how they can be connected to schools, as well as to get really clear on what it means that a quote case-by-case basis will be used to readmit students. I have an elementary schooler, he's dying to get back to school, and it's not clear right now that he's automatically going to be allowed to after he gets the vaccine. So I would just appreciate some more transparency on that. Thanks very much for your patience.
Thanks, Mr. Adler. I think we have one or two additional people remotely.
Ashik Idrizi.
So if you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself and where you reside in the district.
Hello, actually this is his wife, Amanda Lindbergh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to respond to a previous comment referencing cures for COVID-19. As far as I can tell from everything that I've read, they are speculative, that there is no FDA approved cure for COVID-19. And it's an invalid logical argument to dismiss COVID-19 vaccines as experimental while advocating for a far less researched potential cure. And because there are no FDA approved or highly researched and peer-reviewed cures for COVID-19, I think that the best way to avoid getting sick, our children getting sick, ourselves, our extended family and neighbors getting sick, is to focus on prevention. And there is highly researched evidence that masking works and that social distancing, washing hands works, that the measures that the school district employed last year worked very well. And I would also like to respond to some of the anecdotal examples that the previous commenter made. When I am making decisions regarding my family's health and safety, I cannot rely on anecdotal evidence. The effects of COVID-19 are not universal, and relatively mild cases in some people does not imply that I will have a relatively mild case, that my family, my grandparents, my work colleagues will have a relatively mild case. And so I strongly support continuing to mask in schools and to employ every measure of a social distancing and CDC peer-reviewed recommendation that's available, and thank the board and the State College School District for the job they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. I think we have one more.
Patty Higgins. Is she on? No. Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Just to ensure we didn't miss anyone, is there anyone here in person who missed out making a public comment? I had a feeling. Ms. Weissman, would you like to come up to the podium at the front and state your name and where you reside in the district, and then you have 2 minutes to make a comment.
Hi, Carrie Weissman. I live in the Lamont area of State College. I am also a elementary counselor here in the district. And I'm also on the board of the Center LGBTQA Support Network. We started our organization 6 years ago in response to the fact that teens were dying all over our country and in our town because of, I guess what I would say, lack of support and or lack of understanding for LGBT students. And just felt like we really needed to do things to stop kids from dying. And I understand and really support that the board is introducing a policy, especially with regard to trans students. We have had some trans parents who were parents of trans students who were delighted with the treatment their students got. On the other hand, there is no policy at this time, and therefore no one can know for sure how a school is going to respond when they have their student has needs, their child has needs. I think that you're probably well aware that the suicide rate for these students is much higher than for the regular population. And we applaud adopting the policy for especially for trans students and for naming in our district. We encourage that, and we're really delighted when that happens for our students. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and that policy should be coming back to the full board. It's just got some details to be ironed out, so that'll be coming to the full board in the coming weeks or month. Okay, I think perhaps we've crossed everything off the list. Is there anyone else? I didn't miss anyone. Okay.
Amy, could I just?
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate something. The caller, they called in about the earlier comment. I just want to say that the FDA has a statement on its website about the dangers of the drug that is promoted on the website that was shared earlier, and I just want to, I don't want this place to be, this board meeting to be a place of misinformation, so I encourage people to look at the FDA website about the dangers of ivermectin. So that's all, thank you.
Yeah, as a veterinarian, I'm pretty familiar with that drug. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning? Say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned. Have a good